Good morning and welcome to a live broadcast. I'm your host, Bob Pace, and this show is called the Secret: How to Fight CPS and Get Your Children Back. Now, for some of you that are just tuning in, I don't think any of you tuned in quite yet, but I'm normally on at 10 o'clock. But today there's another show, and they wanted some break between shows. So I come on at 10:30 just for today only. But my podcasts are broadcast live via Facebook on YouTube. Yay, we got somebody. Hi there. And we just got started. We just came in there. But one of the things that people still ask me today, what is CPS? Well, CPS is Child Protection Services. It's a branch of social services that deals with protection of our children and to keep them so they're not abused and not neglected. It's also to help with family reunification. So if you get a little bit of trouble or little hiccups and you're able to take care of the matter, you should be reunited with your kids. Also, there's a lot of false allegations going on out there. And I hate to disappoint you guys, but CPS cannot be trusted. Why? Well, I found out the hard way. Um, it happened to me in 2015, and they stole my children. I was able to get back two of my three children. But anyway, I want everybody to know that this is an interactive show, meaning there's many ways you can interact with this show. We talk about child protection services, how they are in every state. In fact, yesterday we had someone from Canada. The day before we had someone from Australia. The person in Canada was in Nova Scotia. The person in Australia was Perth. And so, it's happening worldwide. I hear like it's happening over Europe and so forth. And what's happened is I think the Child Protection Service has gone corrupt, or somebody's told them a fast way to make $1 billion business. In my case, it really was. It was terrible. Oh boy, was it terrible. Now, you interact with this show, there's several ways you can. The first way is you can text a message. You can write a comment. If you're on the YouTube, you look right at the bottom and you can write a comment. The comment will appear and I'll read it. It's important that you put your name and you put your state that you're from and what it involves. Your children, is it custody battle? Is it substance abuse? Is it false allegations? I need to know so we can help you. And also, you may want to be on the show. Now, there's two ways you can be on the show. One way is to call in right now. That's my office number right there on the screen, 626-698-0990. And I'll put you live on the show, and you can talk about your case. And it'll be on speakerphone, but everybody will hear you. I'll hear you. And that's one way. And this is good for, an hour show here, so we got plenty of time. Another way to be a host not a host, but a guest on the show is a call into my office, my other office number, 888-888-6582. That's the main office number. And you can call and say, hey, Bob Pace sent me, and that I want to be a guest on his show. And you name them the date and the time. Now, I'm on 7 days a week and 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time and 7 o'clock in the evening Pacific Standard Time. So that's twice a day. So there's 14 times a week you have your chance to be on the show, to tell your story, to listen to what other people have to say. It's a lot of valuable information that people are sharing that may help you not make the same mistake. Also, we are sponsored by Vincent W. Davis and Associates. It's a law firm based in Southern California. And it will handle all kinds of legal matters. But Mr. Davis, the lead lawyer there, is a family law attorney. And he knows how to fight CPS. He has fought CPS. He's professional trial attorney. He does trials too. Another thing he does is he'll fight CPS and sue a civil suit against CPS. They did something wrong against your rights or something that happened, because it's a traumatic experience. And the reason why I mentioned an attorney is if you haven't got one now, you may do the same mistake I did. I didn't have an attorney for my first year and a half, and it was terrible. It was really, 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 really terrible. And I wish I did, because a lot of my wasted time and a lot of my time could have been avoided there. But it's really important that you have an attorney. Now, Mr. Davis is offering a free consultation about strategies to fight CPS and get your children back. He'll give you up from 30 minutes to an hour to talk with him. Now, at the bottom, there's a little ticket inscriptions going across, and at the tail end of it is the website for his calendar. So if you want to know what day he's open to talk to you, just look at that calendar, and then you call in 888-888-6582. Say that Bob Pace sent you, and say, I want to schedule a consultation with Mr. Davis, for 30 minutes or for an hour or 45 minutes, whatever time, he'll give you up to an hour. And he will sit down and he will help you with strategies and how to fight CPS. So please call in there, and if you like him, retain him. He's the best around. He has a sliding scale depending on the complexity of the case and how long the case has been going on, and depending where it is. He'll do your case in Southern California, Northern California, any of the 50 states. I don't know if he's going to be able to go worldwide, but he's pretty much open to anything, because I said that we had an Australian and a Canadian call in with CPS troubles. And so, that being said, it looks like we've had a couple people pop in, popping out. But as you pop in, you must be attracted to the banner that said, Bob Pace fight CPS. And so I'm here. I'm a real person that, just like you guys, have suffered a big event in my life. Now, I've sort of told you about the attorney we have here. I'm not a lawyer, but I have a lot of advice. I know a lot about the forms and so forth. And I think what I could do when you start getting some people here is go over. Yeah, some people asked me yesterday, what is a PSA? Well, a PSA is a professional service agreement. It's between two parties and it's legally binding contract. It's a type of consultant agreement. Let me see where else it goes. See, what's it for? It's a managed relationships. Um, it's used in business with independent contractors, legal binding, but they try to use it in CPS. A girl, client they called in said, "What is that?" So um, it is a legal binding contract. Now, what I want to do, um, but PSA is used in a lot of different frameworks. I've never heard it crossed till someone brought it in. but it's a legal binding contract, and I'd be really careful about that. Um, I'm looking right now at the CPS with the PSA. I'm currently getting my MSW, and I want to say that CPS is not in the business of taking kids away over anything. Well, that's not true. I know it firsthand. I know it really firsthand. Um, oh, jeez. Well, hmm. I was trying to get it there, but it seemed like it was kind of stuck there. Well, I don't know if anybody's in the room, but I certainly will talk on here. Um, so I talked about the CPS. Uh, Now, if you're in the CPS, you need to know how to fight Child Protection Services decision. It's going to be slammed against you. Now, Child Protection Services in California is under the Department of Social Services. In other states, it may have a different name, but it's still the same thing. It's protect your children. So it's the state's intervention system that stops child abuse and neglect. The goal of CPS is to ensure that children are safe in their homes and to find new solutions for children who are unsafe. CPS is required to act on any report it receives of suspected child abuse or neglect. It'll investigate, intervene as needed, and provide whatever serves the child needs to be safe. So every tip they get, every phone call of alleged child abuse or neglect, it is not difficult for a misunderstanding to lead to false accusations. And I want to tell you, in my case, I had a lot of false accusations. In fact, that's the big problem of this. When these allegations come in, they're not required to be written or signed by anybody. They just literally come in off the phone. And if somebody has a problem against you, let's say a family member doesn't like your family or wants to take your kids or cause trouble, it could be a custody battle where you have your spouse try to alienate you from your kids. Now, alienation is a big word. It's against the law to alienate. CPS alienates, family members will, and so will parents. And it's sad because alienation is wrong. It hurts the child. You should not try to alienate or make one parent look bad than the other parent. So, with that being said, it's really important that that um, those allegations be proved not true. So, for instance, they may say the parents are taking drugs. If they're taking drugs, CPS, it's the truth. They'll not say it. So, in CPS's case, every allegation comes in, you're guilty until you're proven innocent. Remember that. You're guilty till you're proven innocent. Now, with other legal matters, other accusations, and other courts things, you're innocent till you're proven guilty. And CPS has taken this really serious because for a long time, kids were horribly abused. They still are today. And what's happened is CPS has evolved to now be a very difficult, unfriendly agency to make your life like hell and thinks every case, every parent is harming their children and neglecting their children, which is far from the truth. There are parents that maybe didn't have the skills in parenting, that lack a particular skill, maybe don't know how to change diapers. I don't know any of you were born with a manual of how to raise children and how to take care of children, even how to do relationships. Um, see, let me get back to where I was here. And I hope you will text in three people and ask me questions through your comments or call in right now at 626-698-0990. And that's my direct line, and I'll put you on the show. And you can talk about your case because I want this show to be something that helps you. I don't necessarily need to talk about my case in detail or what happened to me. It was horrible. It was really, 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 really horrible. So if you have any questions or anything, right now I'm talking about different topics. I've talked about the PSA, which is a professional binding agreement that CPS uses. I found that out yesterday. There's a 388 form, which is a petition to turn into court with new evidence, or that you complete your plan, or that you want to drop the old plan, replace it with a new plan, or make changes and so forth. That 388 is a real important one. Attorneys know about it, but you as people out there will not know about it. And so that's why it's important to always have an attorney there. It's like a doctor. If a doctor is going to operate on the heart, you're not going to have a layperson operate on the heart. You're going to have a professional doctor. You know, it's the CPS needs a professional lawyer. And you probably now say, well, I have a public defender. Well, sad to say, public defenders are not going to help you with a professional lawyer that you hire. Those public defenders are 20 people on their caseload. They are so loaded with case, and they don't have much time. They have 5 minutes. And it's like a zoo where I was going through the dependency courts and see the public defenders in the hallways talking with their people. That's another thing. In this area, and I like to hear from other people, the courts say you're supposed to be able to hear your case. No, you're not allowed in the courtroom. You have to sit outside. The only time you're allowed in the courtroom is if they want you to come in and speak about some issue or sign something. It's really a shame because you don't know how your attorney's performing, or you don't know the wheels and deals. And I got news for you. My judge was terrible. Oh my goodness. He knew all about how to do car repairs and fight damage claims, but he knew nothing about family reunification. And so we got to stop that. This is election year. I want everybody to go out and vote. Vote for a new judge, a judge that has family law experience, a judge that's been around a little bit. We need someone in there. We don't need any yo-yos play with our lives. Our lives are very complex, and our children are very precious to us. We're really involved taking care of our children. We love our children. So it's really hard. You have to understand that CPS will not be your friend. I've yet to hear. I mean, I've talked to over hundreds of people, and they lie, they do deception, and they ain't skilled social workers. There's no certificate required. They don't require a college degree. They don't require anything. They just hire someone off the street who wants a job, and right away they thrust them into the arena with reunification families. They don't know. They're not married. They don't have children. They don't know about substance abuse. Or I mean, they might have an orientation, but they certainly don't know it. And so right away, they're making decisions that affect your life forever and your children's life. I've heard so many bad cases where children are given drugs by these social workers because they think they're doctors. They think they can diagnose a parent or a child if they have mental health problems. They think they're mental health professionals, and they'll prescribe a medication, or they write that in the report you're considered crazy. You have a mental health problem. So it's these are what people have told me, and it's very important. Now, one thing is really important. You don't have to talk to social workers. When they show up at your door or call or anything else, don't talk to them. because the more you talk to them, the more you let them in your home, the more things they're going to find. Their goal is to steal your children. They're the only legal agency that can steal your children. And they took my children after 5 years. They were so infuriating. The social workers used a policeman, duped the policeman, thinking there was something terrible at the home, which there wasn't, and then took our children. Took our children. It was sad. They were first put in a shelter, which is right next to the dependency court, which is right next to the prison, and the play area was infested with bees at a beehive. What protection is my child going to have? It was overcrowded, the food was terrible, and it was dirty. And that's protection. That shelter was dirtier than my home. I mean, it was terrible. Um, they had supervision, but it wasn't adequate. It's the first step to take children, and sometimes I put them in a hotel, but they have to have supervision. So that's why they use a shelter, and the shelter is conveniently close to court. But that's the last time you're going to see my children. I got visits with them, and for the 3 years, but I didn't get visits with one of my children because right from the start, they kept her away. It was terrible. I still don't understand to this day, but I don't know what your case is, and all you that are listening right now, if you have something you want to write a comment to me, put your name, put the state you're from, and what the allegations are, and what children it involves, and I will try to help you here. Um, so anyway, you get these allegations slamming at you. They may say you're on drugs or that you use excessive corporate punishment, and these will come from all kinds of people. The professional people required by law to report it. So if a teacher is teaching school and sees a child in class with burn marks over their body, they're going to suspect that maybe some child abuse was happening. And so they're going to call it. And once they call in, they have to be investigated. And the investigation is terrible because the CPS workers want to see if they can get you trapped and take away your children. And so they move to adoption because it goes from a shelter, um, you know, a shelter spot, either a hotel or the shelter they have built or something like that. Uh, then you have that week, you have a safety planning meeting where they're going to determine where the child's going to stay if they can't stay with you. For instance, some of the people calling in said they haven't seen their spouse in a long time. So suddenly the social worker gets them because someone reported them, it could be their spouse. And they get their children taken away and they put it with the spouse that hasn't seen their children for years. It's crazy how the CPS works. They want to manipulate people and they want to, take people and so forth like that. So their goal is to make sure they're adopted. And if once they're adopted, they can receive funds until they're 18. And those funds are coming from the state and the federal, and they're overkill funds. I mean, they're more than they should be coming in, and there's no accountability. Not only are they not licensed or skilled, there's no accountability. So they just spend money every which way, and their goal is to build their Taj Mahal, which they have one there. I don't know what the purpose of that building for. It's all management in there. None of the social workers work out of it, but it's a nice, fancy building. Looks like a World Trade Center. And I tried to talk to the head honcho and the supervisors and tried to get something decently. I wanted family reunification. I want to see my children. I want to be involved. If there's something wrong with me, tell me what I need. Is there a parent class I need? Tell me what I need. I'll get it there. If it's drug testing, test me, I don't do drugs. I don't, all the stuff that they could have got you with, they didn't. The only thing they did is they found that mom and dad were negligent because I had a disaster where my family's belongings were in the house. And I'm talking about my mom and dad dying. I had a perfect storm brewing. And that perfect storm started off with the banks crashing in 2007. And I lost half of my retirement. I was working and I had a job and I was getting contract work. Um, I also got what was called a predatory loan for a new home. I moved from a small home to a bigger home because I wanted to make it nice for my family. I was really surprised when I got qualified because I thought for sure I was tripling the price of my home. It was a big mortgage. And so what happened is these lenders were bad. These lenders were bad. And this one lender um, did refinancing every day so they get the rewards of the refinancing bonus. So that was really hard to fight that. So I had a predatory loan on the home. I had half my retirements gone because the bank's going bellied up. And then on top of that, the state of California in 2010 wrote me IOUs for my heavy highway and civil engineering construction work. And why? Well, the governor at the time short on funds, so he thought he'd be creative and write IOUs. He wasn't turning down the contracts, but he certainly wasn't letting me be able to start them. And when I went to banks to try to get credit line to start them, the banks laughed at me. The banks, they go from one extreme to another extreme. They qualify every Tom, Dick, and Harry, but then when they get burned, then they tell no one gets a loan now, or a credit line, and so forth. So it was hard. It was so hard with this storm brewing because on top of that, um, I started getting calls from social services and meeting with me in my home or out in the street about these alleged complaints that none were true, like you're not taking care of your children, you're not paying your utility bills, you're not providing food, you're not taking them to school, and so forth. Well, every one of them I disproved. Little did I know that the thing that would catch me is my parents' furniture. I had to move from their house because they're liquidating that, and I didn't have money for a um, a storage area, so I put them in my home, and that made it look kind of cluttered. You have boxes on top of boxes of furniture. Somehow they thought I'd be neglected to my children. Those boxes were suddenly going to go upstairs and attack the children in their bedroom, or the furniture was going to go upstairs and attack the children. Yes, it was a lot of belongings, but they're neatly organized and and packed and so forth. So that's where they felt the children extreme danger, and they need to be, away from the home, which is stupid because they weren't in extreme danger. The kids told them. In fact, when the kids were called at school once, they said to the social workers, "Aren't you going to help my daddy? I mean, he lost his job. His parents are dying. He needs help. He needs storage. He needs someone that work in the yard. Yard is overgrown because I couldn't afford the landscaper." It was a domino effect. My perfect storm was brewing, and by the time 215, year 2015 late running around, bingo! Here comes the CPS workers with the falsified police and everything else. They used a detective who used a local black and white to pull me over for some stupid charge that wasn't true. And then I insisted I follow him to my house. And if I knew the law, then I'd say, "I'm not following you to the house. If you have a warrant, let me see your warrant. Let me see where it says you can search my house, or who you're searching for, or what you're searching for." Because, like a fool, I followed him up there because I thought the police knew what they're doing and they're honest. And as soon as I came to my house, which was in a private neighborhood, I saw my front yard, three social workers, five firemen, two uniformed police officers, and two code enforcement. And then I had, of course, the detective there. And my young son, who I just picked up at school, was with me, all scared with, "Why all these people here?" I mean, I thought maybe my house had burned down or someone broke in or something like that because I never saw so many people. And it was terrible. They were thinking that something awful had happened. So I was a fool and let them in. And then they saw my parents' belongings, and then that was their reason to take my kids out and open up a case and make it really hard for me to get my kids back. It was really, really hard. Not only is a social worker not licensed or have to any qualification to be a social worker, They will not let you, have meetings with your children. I think you should have once a week meetings with your children, the social workers, and the attorneys to discuss where mom and dad were on the plans, where the kids were, what they're doing. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a family get together to talk about issues. No, do they do something like that? No. They alienate you. They alienate the children not to love their parents. In fact, after the shelter, we're able to put the children with my wife's sister for a period of time to watch and take care of. But this thing is going to drag out. It started in May and May and then June, July, and August. I mean, by June and July was as long as her sister could watch her take care of the children. It was too much work for her. These kids had 3 different schools they went to. They had homework to do. They had meetings at school. They played sports. They played AYSO soccer. They're in Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and Cub Scouts. And so they were really busy. It was a busy family. And we went on trips on top of all that for vacation trips. And we'd go even overseas. So, the world was our fun time during my vacation time to see. So every 2 weeks out of the year, I spent it with my family and on my vacation. Anyway, I'm sitting here battling what to do with my parents' belongings. I'm running out of money. I had to sell my home because I needed to hire an attorney. And I wish I had hired an attorney early on because it would have really helped me without that attorney. Again, all you that are listening out there right now, I'd love to hear from you. Write your comments, text them right there, and I'll see them. Put your name, put the state, and what the allegations are and what children it involves, and I'll try to help you. If you'd like to talk on the show right now and talk about your matter, CPS good or bad, we'd love to have you. You can call into my personal cell phone, 626 698 0990. That's my office phone. And during this hour, I answer it. I can put you live on the show. If you feel like you're not ready to go on the show, then you can call 888-888-6582. That's my office phone that they can schedule a time. Make sure you say Bob Pace sent you. And they can schedule a time that you would work for you to be on the show. Again, I do 14 shows a week, on for an hour at a time, 2 shows a day. So you should have no problem getting hold of of um, of a time and a date that you could be talked on the show. Now, I did mention early on about a lawyer. It's the most important tool that you have for fighting CPS. No one knows how to navigate or the laws of child matters than a lawyer. A lawyer has to go to school to study. He has to do a lot of things. I wish the social workers had some training. But you need to get a lawyer. We have one. This show is sponsored by Vincent W. Davis Associates. It's a law firm in Southern California. The chief lawyer, Mr. Vincent W. Davis, he's a family law professional attorney. He has done trial cases, so he knows how to do trial cases. He knows his business well. He can fight CPS. He can, go a lot of places. Now, right now, there's a free consultation for 30 minutes up to an hour that you can have with him, and he'll talk to you about the strategies. He'll talk about um, how to fight CPS and how to get your kids back. It's so important that you really take up this offer. It's free, and you get nothing to lose. And this is all you have to do is call in 888-888-6582. Make sure you tell them that Bob Pace sent you, and that way you can get your time with Mr. Davis, and he can help you. Also, you may like him, and you can retain him. He has a fee for retaining, and it's dependent on how complex the case is, how long the case has been going, and also where you're located. In Northern California, slightly more. In the other states, it's slightly more. So um, he can help you. And as I say, he's giving you this free consultation, so you should take him up on that. There's no reason why you shouldn't. Okay, enough talking about our sponsor. Now back to CPS matters. Now, I've talked about the PSA agreement. I've talked about the 388. There's another act for all you Native American Indians out there. In 1979, the Indian Welfare Child Act was passed. And what that meant is that when Indian kids got in trouble with CPS or the parents got in trouble with CPS and their Indian blood, they could have the tribe intervene and take care of it. I found out that the tribe would be a lot more honest, a lot more. They're not in there to make money. So, um, if you are a registered Indian or could be registered as one of those tribes, then you can. Now, I'm a Lakota Sioux, and the Indian tribe that my great grandmother's from was in Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota. And I try to get registered. I try to get, there so maybe my kids didn't have to leave and could be taken care of by the tribe and back in our hands. But CPS must make an effort. If you identify and say I have Indian blood or my children have Indian blood, they must make an effort to contact all the tribes that you know of to see if they are, belong to the tribe and if they can be registered in that tribe. So that's another option you may want to think. It's the ICWA, the Indian Welfare Child Act. And so, that being said, that is another way you can do that. Now, let me see here. So I talked to you about it starts with the allegations. And my allegations, by the way, were allegations reported by my wife's family that didn't like us and wanted to take our kids away. And they said the mother was not a good mother. I mean, can you imagine your own mom saying that, not a good mother? It was so bad. My wife learned a lot in this CPS matter because it brought out things subconsciously that she was abused and neglected as a small child and as a teenager and continued into life. And so she's had a long battle, and they could have very easily taken both her parents in. But in those days, child abuse ran rampant, and people didn't really know. They don't understand it. She had hot water poured on her. It was scalding hot. She had hot coffee poured on her. Those were punishments that her mother used. And then her brother molested her sexually. That's wrong. You don't have family siblings having sex. That's not wrong. That's reserved for marriage and for um, couples that are in love and so forth. And, teenagers, you got to practice abstinence. It's really hard, but, you got to put your faith in God and refrain from doing so. We have such a liberal society now that it's really easy to have sex. And there's another area that maybe somebody didn't realize that with the news media lately I've been seeing is that the social media has killed and harmed teenagers. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, MySpace, all the social networks out there. They were having a hearing in front of Congress in Washington, D.C. a couple days ago. And Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter, now called X, by the way, it's no longer Twitter, it's called X. They're all being interviewed by the senators saying, what kind of business do you run that you don't protect the children? They were talking about one case where a boy in a state, I think it was in Michigan or something, someone posted new pictures of him, and he was so embarrassed, he committed suicide. Some people do a lot of bullying on those social media. So we as parents got to be more responsible for our teenagers. We don't seem to. We've lost a lot with family values and stuff. We let our kids see pornography, let our kids experiment with sex. We, let our kids run wild, and by the time they're a teenager, they've done everything in adult life. There's nothing for them to do. Let them grow up slowly. Get them involved in school activities. Get them involved in their church. Get them involved into, be a good parent. Why does an elementary school kid need a cell phone, or a middle school kid? That's another thing. With cell phones, it's so easy to go on the social media. It's so easy to, there's horror stories of cheerleaders being bullied on Facebook and stuff, where they commit suicide or they jump on people. Why do you think all these high school shootings are from? They use the Facebook to tell about their story, how horrible it is, or some people bully it. So these CEOs of all these social media companies didn't really have much to say. They think that they don't have any control over what they do, but they should. They should. And in fact, if it's that bad, then they should be waiting the child, you know, it's just like smoking, they don't allow smoking now at 18. You have to be 21 to smoke. Drinking's the same thing. You have to be 21. I know some states will have less, but maybe being on social media, you got to wait. There's maturity. There should be a class in high school they take. The use of a cell phone, the use of social media. They should be that should be a required class. Because they don't know it. And again, the phone should be taken away if they abuse the phone. Their privileges are taken away. It's time out, But I never forget it. When I got my son a phone when he was going into high school, and right away my younger daughter says, "Well, do I get a phone?" And my young son who was still in elementary school didn't really say much, but I gave him a phone about time. But my daughter had a phone when she was 12 years old. And I didn't give it to her. Social services did. Social services did. I mean, it's crazy, you know. So it's like, you shouldn't go to concerts at 15. You're probably saying, why? They're safe now. Well, my wife was raped at a concert. It was terrible. Her parents neglected her, did not be safe, and then her own sister, who's a social worker today, by the way, um, went to the concert, got high, lost sight of my wife, who went to the bathroom and came out. There's probably 30,000 people at the concert, and she saw two guys, and they tricked her and took her in the bushes. And then she was horribly raped, and her first experience was, um, sex. She was pregnant. Luckily, the child was adopted, and the child came back to life when he was 20, and he's been leading a productive life as a lawyer. But I just see our social values and everything else, and so CPS has done a number on this because they got to make money, and so they're taking advantage of these things. They take advantage of a lot of these social um, things with us. So, um, I like to see some changes made. I like allegations to be in writing and the name signed on it. That way, people are a lot more careful if they sign something when they make an allegation. It's too easy for people to pick up a phone, hide behind the phone, and say, you know, uh, daddy is molesting his daughter, like that. Yes, there is definitely abuse and neglect of children. I'm not saying there never was, but most of the cases that I've heard, I'm talking over 100 of them, 99% of them involve false allegations, or false allegations have been stretched so hard and so bad that they can't get out of it. They cannot get out of it. So what I'm saying is that we as families got to really address these issues. As we grow up, uh, we aren't put with a manual of how to operate, or how to do relationships, or how to do uh, raise kids or change diapers and stuff like that. So, with that being said, it's hard out there. But if there's some hiccups, some of the parents out here have substance abuse. Well, you have to take a drug test. You have to take parenting classes. That's fine. Drugs are not allowed children under the age of 18. You're not supposed to have them. Now, marijuana seems to be rampant now. And, I see people in apartment living and stuff like that smoking pot, and they have kids around. They can get busted. They're so stupid. They're so stupid. It's against the law. They have minors under the age of 18 do drugs and even being a participant off the side. That's just wrong. And it's why do you want children to grow up? I mean, when they're 12, let them be 12-year-olds. Let them be 15-year-olds. Why do they have to be 21 or 23? And it seems that parents don't have any values. I love to hear other families how they take care of their kids and what they do, but you open yourself up for CPS. They'll come and invade your home. They'll take your kids away. They'll steal your kids, and they do it legally. And what they try to do when they move from the shelter to maybe stay with a family member to then they're going to get in a group home. And after a group home, they put them in foster care and then they're adopted. And that's what happened to our daughter. Our daughter at 12 divorced her parents because she was convinced she was alienated by the family members that were trying to interfere with her family and alienated by the social workers and convinced that adoption would be a better thing. I at at the time before all this happened, I used to be able to get Disneyland passes. I had a job, I could afford it. But she saw the writing on the wall and saw, okay, it's not going to be like it was again, and it's like sort of um, a bad time. But my wife and I are suffering a lot with CPS even today. We are suffering. We've been together for 30 years and we're trying to finish raising our family. We have two children living at home. One was in college, and in his senior year, he had to move back. And I don't know if the effects of CPS has something to do with it or COVID, but he was at loss. He was wondering, what am I doing in college? And everything like that. So he struggled with his own demons. He's trying to recuperate. Our youngest son is our pride and joy, as all our children are. There's not one child I'd like over another, but he has excelled well in private school, and he has followed a STEM career. And at one time, he wanted to be an astronaut, and he was going to do a career in the Navy and become a pilot and have a job waiting for him. That's one thing out there. The Naval Academy is a good thing to do for 5 years. It's not that bad. I mean, well, 4 years plus five, so you spend 9 years of your life in there. So is West Point, the Army, and so is all the other ones. Besides the Navy, Army, is the Air Force, the Coast Guard, the Merchant, you know, and so they are good. They pay you money while you go to school. They take care of all your expenses, and they're guaranteed a job when you graduate. And so that's not a bad thing to think about. So anyway, my young son is still going to pursue. He has a college lined up he wants to go to. It's nearby. He knows financially that we're still struggling, and he's trying to help out. He wants to get a job. He's worked his 4 years in high school. He's worked his 4 years in food service as a cashier, a food prep, a food server. So he wants to help out his high school payments and everything like that. He also is very athletic inclined, and he loved the sport of football so much that he was fortunate to be on the varsity team for 3 years. Freshman year he was, but those 3 years he won two United States national championships, two state championships, and in those 3 years' time there, his sophomore, junior, and senior year, he was on the varsity team, and this year being a senior. So he wins the state, he wins the national, he wins the Southern Section um, uh, championships, he wins his league. So he has a lot of awards and everything like that. So he's done quite well. He's also very outgoing and so forth. And he of all of us seems to be the least affected by CPS, but I think CPS left marks. And how they left marks? They took our kids and in the shelter, not the shelter, but in the group home, they taught them skills not to love your mom and dad, not to put your hands up around them, put your hands at your side. It was terrible. And on top of that, the group home was run by Boys Town, who knows nothing about CPS or family reunification. Boys Town is something that started for boys and girls that do not have moms or dads. So it's in the Midwest and so forth. There's a lot of people in this country that don't have moms and dads. So that's what Boys Town was all about. Well, CPS thought they were so smart they get somebody cheap and keep the money themselves. So they put out the bid. Boys Town came along and bid something. They didn't know what they're doing. So they bid to be a manager of a group home. And in those group home, it's horrible. My son was punished for drinking too much orange juice. He had points that he worked so hard on taken away from him for stupid stuff. I mean, uh, the the group home parents were very young, immature. They had one child that was barely, I think, 2 or 3, and another child on the way. And they got to take care of their own children. Plus, they had 6 other children to deal with. 3 of them were from our family, 2 of them from another family. Another one was there. It was sad. It was sad. The group home, you know, CPS says they're strong. We got to take care of our kids. We'll protect them. Well, they didn't protect them in the shelter because one of those prisoners could have stolen my kids, break out or something like that. The bees could have attacked my children. They could have got sick from the inadequate food, the lack of supervision, or how dirty it was. And then the group home was just really bad. And then foster care. That was the next step. They tried to break apart the family. They had my older son saying, well, he need to go to private school. We'll help him. We'll give a class called Banking 101, where he learned to have a checkbook and do all that. My son already had a checkbook. He already knew Banking 101. He's taking calculus, physics, chemistry. He's taking hard classes, and they're the classes in the STEM program. My young son does the same thing too. He's taking AP government, physics. I mean, robotic engineering. On top of that, he does take some fun classes. Football was not really a class, but it was something that he really enjoyed. The brotherhood was really great on that team. So we're really proud of them as parents. But it is really a hard matter of fact when CPS does things that are wrong and you can't do anything. We see it blatant. The judge is crooked in dependency court. I mentioned earlier that his background was only in car accidents and how to repair a vehicle and those kinds of things. He had no background in family. You need to have a judge elected that has family law background. And this being election year, I remind you guys all again, go out and vote. It's our responsibility to put capable people in office to run this country. We have a lot of issues here. So we have a lot of issues. And so we have to really, yeah, I don't know where to touch on. We have so many issues. I mean, you hear what Congress is doing. The elections are upon us. And on top of this, we have an open border. We had a closed border for a while. It used to be when I grew up, you had to be a citizen to be in the United States before you got any benefits. Now, there's millions of people that get free schooling, free food, free health care, free job relocations, and money, cash aid. And so they got clothing, they got everything. And they're just from some place where I'm happy for them to have everything. But why not give them to the people that are in need here? We have so many homeless people here. We should be addressing that. There's homeless people there. CPS doesn't care, I guess, about the street children or the homeless people. I don't know what's wrong with CPS, but they need an overhaul. There need to be accountability of where the money goes to, what gets spent on. My son was in foster care, and the foster care parents bought him 100 pairs of socks. How can he wear 100 pairs of socks? They said they had to use the money to lose it. It's just crazy stuff like that. He'd go to church, and they scold him because he wanted to take communion from the priest in his mouth, and put it in your hand and taken by non-priest. He was taught that's not true there, but that's his religion. But the foster care people cuffed him. They punished him, sent him to his room, made him really feel bad about something that he believed in his religion. Now, this is wrong. I've heard from so many parents that the foster care people hurt their kids. And when you call on the foster care, CPS does nothing because they're palsy wowsy. It's like a clique. It's a rich boys clique there with CPS. The judge, the social workers, attorneys, the social workers, the therapists, the counselors. They even have a CASA, which is someone that helps children that supposedly don't have a mother and father. I mean, you know, there are cases where they don't have mothers and fathers, and I think it's important. But we had a very functional family, and they destroyed the family. They destroyed it so bad that um, the family's never been the same. I mean, I lost my house in that perfect storm I told you about because I had to use money to get an attorney. When I got Vincent Davis aboard, I had him get my kids back. He got back two of the three. My mistake was is I opened my house to the social workers and the police, and I told them things that you need to not talk. You need not to talk. You don't need to talk anything. Let the laws work for you. If you do everything in there, no matter what they say, they're going to trick you. Yesterday, I had some people text me in yesterday evening, and they said that they were tricked. They thought they were going to get their kids back next month, and then they changed their mind. Oh, these social workers are so bad. Our social worker was more interested in her new makeup that she got, her Gucci purse. She's in her early 20s, her new BMW car. They get bonuses. They get bonuses for keeping the kids in there. And they're rude. They know nothing about people skills. The people skills in social service is terrible. And, social service needs a revamping. All of it does. Place where you get food stamps and Medicare or, medical, that needs to be revamped. I mean, it is so sad. It's like, if I'm in a country where I'm starving there, they don't have jobs, stuff like that, and I hear about the United States, sure, I'd come here to the United States. I mean, who else gives out everything free? I mean, it's really, I mean, and the borders. I mean, I would think that the borders would become closed again, and people would be put into a temporary home until they get settled into society by becoming a U.S. citizen. That's what Ellis Island was all about. When the people came from Europe, they stayed at Ellis Island and they learned English. They learned government. The branches of government, the legislative, the judiciary, the the executive department. Those they need to know how the government runs so they can do things there. They need to know U.S. history because there's some important things that happened during the Civil War and the War of 1812, or the Spanish American War, and all the other wars and all the other events, the new machinery, the when you start to fly or go to the moon and stuff. So we really need, you know, to uh, to revamp social services, revamp the border, revamp CPS, part of social services, so it does protect our children. There are cases where parents throw their kids against walls because they're crying. I mean, I know there are terrible horror stories. There is definitely a need for it, but it needs to be a controlled need. These people need to be accountable. They need to know what they're doing with the money, and it should not be a money thing on there. And the public defenders, I don't know. They're like brand new. Their case is 20 people, and they don't try to fight for their clients. But people can't afford a regular attorney. Well, luckily I had a home I could mortgage, but I lost my home. So I lose my home, lose my daughter. I still haven't got a. I mean, I got a job for about a year and a half, but they ran out of work for me because they think I'm too old. But I'm 74 years old. I'm determined to take care of my family. I'm not going to give up. Well, I've run out pretty much my time. I was hoping we have somebody talk today, but I thank you for the people that were in the room, and thank you for the thumbs up. I appreciate that. I want to help you. I want you to know, do not give up. I'm here to help you, and you can call back later at this evening and be on my evening show or talk to me. I'd love to talk to you. But wherever you do, keep your precious children precious. Get them back. Don't give up. Don't give up. and get that attorney. Again, Mr. Vincent W. Davis is a licensed professional family lawyer with skills in, in trial skills. He also can sue them civil matters. So the number is 888 6582. That's the same number you call for the attorney, say that Bob Pace sent you, and schedule that free 30 minute to an hour consultation for a strategy meeting to talk about getting your kids back and fighting CPS. You have nothing to lose. Also, that same number, 888 6582, is one that you call if you want to be on the show. It's too late now for anybody to be on the show, but that number will be up again. I just turned off my other office phone. But, I'd love to have you as a guest on the show. So pick out the time and date you want to talk. It's twice a day I'm on. But don't give up and keep doing what you're doing best and try to get your children back. They're very precious. Anyway, good luck to the new year coming up. And thank you for listening. And much happiness the upcoming year, too. God bless you. This is Bob Pace signing off.